Hello, and welcome to my Fire Emblem 9 Path of Radiance 100% gross low turn count playthrough. I'm your host Typhoon Carter, and today we bring to you Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is the second chapter where we get base preparations, and it's a fairly long one, and the first chapter where we will use bonus XP in any capacity. The main target here was Soren, who we needed to get close to promotion as possible while still conserving some bonus XP, as we're going to need to save that from Marcia later on, who joins us this very same chapter as well. And here we see that we have Javelins available for the first time, as it is noted before that the armory in the base has different availabilities for each chapter. Same deal with forges. Here we forge a nice iron axe. We're gonna call it BSFE. It's gonna be pretty helpful by fixing Boyd's inconsistent accuracy, and also we're going to use it to help us get some extra damage output that we might not get otherwise. So it's going to be quite handy there. Now we also are going to get a bunch of new units for Chapter 9. And two of these units is Mist and Rolf. Now, we also will get the ally function, where we can basically have Ike direct orders or give out orders to allied units to do certain things. And we're going to see this put to use with Lef and Mordecai, who will join us as playable units the next chapter. But for this chapter, they're just yellow units, which is basically the closest thing to a green unit in this game, without it being an outright green unit. Now, for this chapter, Ike's gonna have to spend a lot of it waiting around a couple turns for Marcia to show up. But we will have to split into two groups. Now, the upper group here with Mist, Mia, and Rolf, they're all just gonna wait there, and we're going to use Mordecai and Lef to kind of block this two-tile choke point, sort of, as we're going to need Mist to gain some staff rank. And the other thing is we're going to have to work down towards the bottom to make a long rescue chain. I suppose we could use this time to talk about Mist and Rolf in more detail. Now, Mist is the second healer that joins us, and at base, she is basically a worse Rhys, as she has E rank staves. But the reason we're actually training her is because of her promotion. Now, the thing with Mist is that Mist promotes into a Valkyrie, where if she doesn't have C staves by then, she will gain it automatically on promotion, which is very nice, as it will allow us to reach B rank staves sooner. And Valkyries in this game, unlike previous games, uses staves and swords for some reason. Although I guess this was Intelligent Systems' way of showing off the magic strength split that they brought back since Thracia, as it was absent in all of GBA. Now, Rolf is your generic archer with really bad bases, and looks like a Chapter 1 unit, but instead he joins in like Chapter 9, so he's pretty bad, but we're going to find some uses for him later on. But we'll save it for then. Now what we're doing here is we're going to have Soren like move towards the seize point. And the seize point here, we want him to keep moving forward so that he can trigger reinforcements, as those reinforcements will kind of get in our way of getting Ike to a seize point. But the good thing here is because we have to wait for Marcia to show up, we have time to set this up. So when Marcia arrives, we're going to need to have her be ready to carry out a long rescue chain to cover ground for Ike. Now what we're doing here with Mia, if you haven't noticed already, is that we're just letting Mia get hit on purpose, as Mia is pretty weak and can't really kill anybody. Although I think if I really wanted to, I could have probably bypassed the Iron Lance Forge back in chapter 8 and gave like Mia a ridiculously heavy sword forge just to make it prolong even longer, but that's just food for thought, and that wouldn't really be needed. I'd still take the Lance Forge. Now on this enemy phase here, you know, Soren's just doing his thing. With all the bonus experience that he received, he basically just stomps all these enemies with ease, as we do need him to promote in the middle of this chapter. The reason being is that towards the end of the map, Ike is going to need to get shoved, and Soren unpromoted can't quite do that, but when Soren promotes, we can get him to shove unpromoted Ike, which will be really nice in order for us to get a turn save on this chapter. Technically Ilyana can do the same thing, but Ilyana, it'd be a little bit harder to get kills set up for her back in chapter 8. And I could also use this time to maybe talk about Lef and Mordecai. Now Lef, basically the way Lagoos work is that each Lagoos unit has a separate starting transformation gauge, which determines like how close they are to transforming. Lef is one of 2 Lagoos units who can transform at the start of a map, which will make her pretty nice for like filler combat, although the unfortunate thing is that she's like 1 range locked, which has its downsides, but the other thing is that she can shove certain mounted units, so she will certainly have a use. While Mordecai, he doesn't transform right away, but the main reason he's going to be useful when we do get him, especially starting next chapter, is Smite, which allows him to basically shove units by 2 tiles, and he can shove even some of the heaviest units in the game, which will be extremely handy, so he will definitely be seeing the field a lot. Now you might have noticed that there were 2 villages in the top left corner. We're skipping it because of 1, the fact that there's like sand terrain that would significantly slow us down, and also the fact that it's just way too far out of the way. Now with Soren having moved forward, we were able to trigger the reinforcement zones, and basically what we're gonna have Soren do is effectively take all of these enemies by himself. And we're going to take advantage of the way promoting in the middle of a map works, is that he will effectively get his HP healed by promoting, so any damage he takes will basically be as if nothing happened. And here, Boyd, Rhys are all coming towards where they're going to need to get ready to shove Ike, as we've seen Marsha here arrive, and she's got to talk to Ike, and we're just going to make her carry him all the way to where Oscar and Titania are set up, and we're just going to maximize their movement. And here, it's just more of Soren just taking out enemies so that we can clear the way, which will be especially handy, and all these enemies will basically fall to Soren. And the thing that's interesting about Sage promotion is that they're given a choice between knives and staves, although the reality is that you take staves every time because like knives just don't have a whole lot of might, along with the fact that staves are just way more useful, and we need Soren to hit B staves, so having him promote as early as chapter 9 is going to give us a whole lot of time. And we also have 2 more defend maps, or rather survive in some cases, so that will also be extremely useful, and will also give us lots of time for him to work towards B rank staves, because unfortunately Soren starts off with E staves, although he can get out of that pretty quickly. And some of these Myrmidons, Soren, now that he's promoted, he can actually one-shot. And we've had him use the Thunder Tome this entire time because we want Soren to eventually hit C Thunder, which will allow him to use bolting. as bolting is effective against Dragon Lagoons units, which we will see much later on in the game. So him being able to use that will certainly have its situational uses. Now, Kotaf, he actually has a Night Killer, which is effective against horses, but ×2 effectiveness is a joke, so we won't have to worry about that. And those two mages are basically stationary, and we watch one of those villages unfortunately get destroyed. There's also like a mini boss on this map, but he's another boss that were one of the few bosses that are quote-unquote side bosses, or not really the main boss, that we're going to skip during this run. And here, Titania, we need her to move so that she can fight. So this is why we brought all these shovers with us. It's so that we can do this and push Ike towards where we need him to go. And Titania unfortunately can't quite kill Kotaf by herself, so Ilyana is there to help. And here once again, Mist is just doing lots of healing, and we're just letting some of her units get hit on purpose. And Rolf wasn't fully healed up, so we won't have to worry about Mist not being able to get some staff EXP out of this. And as we shown there, some Lagoos take a while to transform, but it's fine. So yeah, in a way, it's sort of like a mini grind session, but also a simultaneous siege map at the same time, so there's a fair bit of going on this map, or rather that did go on. And the top half of the map we basically ignored because screw sand terrain, which would have significantly slowed us down, and is kind of a waste of time. Ilyana here unfortunately has a little bit of shaky hit with Elthunder, although realistically I probably could have just brought Thunder and it would have sufficed. Nonetheless here, Kotaf is pretty much taken care of, and it's an easy boss kill for Titania once again, who has been vital, and we get an arm scroll out of this. And we're just gonna complete these shoves, and with that done, that is going to be chapter 9 cleared in 6 turns, as we watch Mist get one last heal off. With that said, I will see you guys next time for chapter 10, which will be Prison Break. Signing out.